Rock on, sister. Okay, so I have to tell you a funny story of, can I borrow this for a second? I have to tell you a funny story. Well, it was funny. I guess it's funny, haha, maybe. I don't know. That Deb doesn't want to kill me by now is kind of amazing. Her name has been spelled wrong in like 30 different places throughout the course of her signing on as a speaker. So Deborah, thank you. Patience, that's what she's got going for her. So, a communication and presentation skills expert, Deborah combines her expertise in cognitive, behavioral, and social psychology, public speaking, and coaching with her experience performing improvisational comedy in New York City's top comedy clubs. Rock on. She believes that life requires the ability to think on your feet and that it always helps to be prepared too. She has coached hundreds of thousands of professionals to communicate more effectively in industries ranging from advertising, financial services, and government to nonprofit, pharmaceuticals, and technology. Deborah has been featured as an expert and a contributor to the New York Times, Huffington Post, Forbes, Fast Company, Bloomberg's Business Week, Fox Business Network, American Express Open Small Business Forum, and is the author. Well, first of all, let me just say, that's so awesome. And is the author of Oy Vey Isn't a Strategy, 25 Solutions for Personal and Professional Success. Thank you, Deb. Here's the mic.
What do we think? Are we on? So I don't know about you, but when I look at a room as beautiful as this is today, I have memories of my wedding. The chandeliers and the tables and the golden chairs. I have such memories of my wedding 15 years ago. And I just want to take a quick poll before I get started. How many of you are married? Okay. How many of you, when you were little girls, fantasized about getting married? How many of you then started planning a wedding and said, oh, this is not what I fantasized about when I fantasized about getting married? Right. So a little more than 15 years ago, I was in that boat. I was in the trenches of planning a wedding, which was quite different from what I envisioned it would be like to be married. And so I was having to think about things like flowers and having to think about things like the music, and for my family in particular, having to think about things like how far apart we needed to put people at different tables around the room so that there would not be blood on the walls. So these are all the things that a typical bride-to-be would think about in planning for an event. But I had one extra thing that I had a feeling most brides-to-be hadn't planned for. And that was, I don't think most brides-to-be planned for what was it that their husband was going to say to them when he saw them in their dress for the first time. And I was not willing to leave that to chance. I mean, did I really give a shit what the flowers look like? No, but I really wanted to know that that moment when my husband was going to see me in my dress for the first time was exactly how I had pictured it. So, in a moment of inspiration, ultimate control freakness, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, I said to my husband, Michael, a few days before the wedding, say, I'm really excited and how wonderful that this is happening, and listen, there's just one moment that's been really very important to me that I've pictured from the time that I was a girl, and that is, what is it that you are going to say when you see me in my dress for the first time? So I've figured it out already, so let me tell you. I said, what I'm going to need you to say is I'm going to need you to say, oh my God, and please look surprised. I'm going to need you to say, oh my God, you look so beautiful. If I hadn't already asked you to marry me, I would ask you to marry me all over again. And then I said, would you like to practice that or maybe write that down somewhere? Do you want me to say it again? I could record it in an MP3 play, something. And he was like, no, I'm good. I got it. These were the moments that I had in my mind that would turn out a certain way, and I thought
silly woman that I was, that I could completely engineer the kind of experience that I wanted for myself from the beginning. Why did I believe that? Well, I'm a coach and I'm a communications expert, so I figured if I just told somebody exactly what to say, it should turn out exactly like that. It was similar. He did it in his own way. I'm a communications professional. He is an engineer. And I'll just tell you, fast forward 15 years later, he now runs a company called Engineers Are People Too, communication skills for technical professionals. So why do I tell you that story? I tell you that story because there are things that we can plan for every minute of the day and within an inch of its life, and then there are some things that we just realize it's going to happen the way it's going to happen. We might intuit it, we might try to plan it, or we might just need to leave some things up for chance. But the fact of the matter is, all of you are here in this room and have stayed, what are we, about 16 hours after the start of the program? You have stayed until the bitter end because you bring with you a level of commitment. And what I'm going to be speaking about for the next 6 hours are the 8 questions to help you overcome procrastination and get moving. So I'm going to share with you a couple of things in the remaining time I have before they flash the red light and take the hook like they do in New York City's top comedy clubs. So I'm a communications and presentation skills professional. I basically got into this line of work starting when I was 14 years old, which was 6 years ago or so. When I was 14 years old, I grew up in New York City. I went to Stuyvesant High School downtown, and my first year of high school, all of the teams come out to figure out who they are going to recruit for what, and every single sports team took one look at me and said, yeah, I think we'll pass. But the one team that knew that they wanted me was the Stuyvesant High School speech team. You know it! And I spent every single day after school practicing public speaking. I spent every single weekend traveling around North America competing in speech contests, and then I spent every summer at speech camp. Sorry, I think I have a little something, a little schmutz, as they would say, a little schmutz, at speech camp. But my senior year of high school, after years and years and years of practice, I won the national championship in public speaking. And from the age of 17, I started getting hired by colleges and corporations and come in and train people to present in a way that didn't feel like root canal. And when they say find your calling, we've had so many speakers here to say find your calling. This is literally the only marketable skill I've ever had. And the same way that people maybe meet their husband in high school and found their soulmate there, I met my job soulmate in high school, and this is what I've been doing in the corporate world. I teach at a couple of MBA programs around the world and also work with entrepreneurs who hate to speak and help them like to speak, and those people who like to speak, I make them blow the room out. That is the work that I do. But I also know that as much confidence as I have on a stage, I haven't always had that confidence about having a business, right? And so we all know that we are brilliant in certain areas of our life and totally blind in other areas, especially when it comes to our business. So I was working full-time in a training capacity, and I started getting a lot of inquiries about whether I could come out and do training and coaching around the topics that I talk about. And if I were intuitive, I would have seen that it was a sign that I was getting lots of inquiries to come and do the work that I love to do. And I kept saying, well, that's a bother. All these people keep calling me and I keep saying no. Wonder what that's about. But alas, not as intuitive as some of the talent in the room. And eventually I said, wait, maybe there's a calling here to have a business. But I kept putting it off and putting it off and putting it off and procrastinating because it seemed too big, too scary, and like so much I did not know. How on earth was I going to do that? So eventually when the calls kept coming, I finally pulled aside the president of my board of directors, my husband Michael, who we all know is more practical than romantic. And I said to him, listen, I seem to be getting a lot of calls that sound a lot like I should be starting my own business. Do you think I could run my own business? And in that moment, he said to me the most romantic thing that he has said to me in 14 years and 10 months of marriage, which was, he said to me, "Have you met you?" So, as with anything, there's good news and bad news. The bad news is that is literally the most romantic thing he has said to me in 14 years and 10 months of marriage. And if he got a little more romantic, maybe I would have to stop counting in months, right? The way we do for our children. Oh, 17 months old, right? The good news is it was such a wake-up call that we don't actually know ourselves the way other people know us, and we don't actually see the things that are getting in our way the way that all of the talented coaches and professionals in this room can see on other people. So I want to share with you 3 key blocks to getting things done, and then I am going to give you a tool that if you are working with a coach, if you decide you're not going to work with a coach, if you say, I don't really even know what a coach is that kind of like a therapist with another title, I'm going to give you some tools to help you out of any block. So, 3 barriers to procrastination. Procrastination often masquerades as something else. Procrastination is often the name that we give to perfectionism, but we call it something else. What do I mean by that? Well, a lot of the time, the reason we don't get started on something is because we are waiting for the perfect starting conditions. How many of you have ever felt like that? How many of you feel like that right now? Right? Okay, good. So I cannot get started because I'm waiting for my website to be perfect, or I'm waiting to get my coaching certification, or I don't have all of my legal ducks in a row. I cannot get started. And as we heard earlier today from Nika, where's Nika? Are you in the room? So Nika, I just want to say one of the things that occurred to me today was that if your name were a drinking game, we all would be drunk by now because of how many people have brought up the wisdom of Nika throughout the program, right? Next time, we want shots, all right? Next time. We'll try and get Woodford Reserve to sponsor next year's. So, don't wait for perfect starting conditions because they do not exist. Are there better times? Yes. Are there worse times? Chances are, but get started anyway. So one way in which procrastination masks itself is in perfectionism by waiting for perfect starting conditions. The other way in which we procrastinate is waiting for perfect ending conditions, right? We are waiting for something to look perfect in order to go to press, to go to launch, to go to lunch, to go somewhere. It's not quite perfect yet, so I can't let anybody know what my idea is. And in fact, one of the ideas that, where's our book coach? Where's our brilliant book? Oh, right in front of me, as are all opportunities. As I said, not intuitive and apparently blind as a bat as well. So one of the things that I love that you said was, don't wait until your book is finished. Put the name of your book in your byline. My book was published a year ago. I had in my byline, author of Oy Vey Isn't a Strategy, 3 years ago. I did not wait for it was finished. I didn't wait until I had a publisher. I had an idea, and that was enough, and I was not going to let that get in the way. So do not wait until it is perfect to launch, because the fact of the matter is once you put it out there, you will see what kind of excitement for what it is you're offering bubbles up, and you may get some really helpful feedback that will make the idea even better before you build it, right? Beautiful. Okay. Please. Okay, good. We have her permission. That's all we needed. Right, beautiful. Absolutely, right. So really imagine, this book, Oy Vey Isn't a Strategy, which it's only been out a year, was 3 years of a tagline, and I did not wait for it to be done or even envisioned before I was including it in there. And then the third thing that we procrastinate about, because it's really about perfection, is we wait for ourselves to be perfect. I just heard a which meant that something hit really close to home, right? We really do wait for things to be perfect about us in order to move forward. So I have to tell you that if I waited until I lost the baby weight to go out and speak on stages, my kids are 12, damn it. If it hasn't come off, it's not coming off. So I'm not waiting for that. I have a PCC in coaching. If I were waiting for my MCC in coaching before I started coaching clients, I'd be waiting a long time. There are plenty of my things in my life that are imperfect, and some of them will stay permanently imperfect, but I cannot let the fact that there are things in my life that are imperfect stop me from moving forward. So the three places where we really get stuck around perfectionism and procrastination are waiting for the perfect starting time, waiting for things to look perfect before we launch them, and waiting for ourselves to be perfect. Let's make the present perfect. And look, every once in a while, things do need to be perfect, right? I don't mean to minimize perfection. And I remember my kids are 12. I have 12-year-old twins, Jacob and Sophie. And I remember that I had envisioned that I would magically become pregnant perfectly. Did not happen that way. No, twins do not run in my family. And then I envisioned that I'd have a perfect pregnancy. I did not envision that I would be in bed for the last 4 months of my pregnancy. So I was quite determined that when I brought my babies home from the hospital, then everything would be perfect. And of course, because I was in bed for 4 months, I had a lot of time to shop on the internet to bring everything in that would be perfect. So the first night home from the hospital, my husband Michael and I were able to bring Jacob home, but Sophie, at then 3 pounds, 15 ounces, was too small. Oh, she's the toughest kid you would ever know in your life. Do not awe her. She would kick all your butts. Do not worry. I mean, she's this big, but she would kick all your butts. So the first night we brought Jacob home, and it was much less than perfect. I mean, who wants to leave a baby in the hospital and come home with one baby? And so that first night, which was in January, in the middle of the night, although everything feels like the middle of the night for the first 6 months, right? But literally in the middle of the night, my son Jacob woke up and he was congested and coughing and choking, and I took him into the bathroom and turned the shower on because you're supposed to steam the baby like broccoli. And nothing was moving, nothing was going ahead, and I went through that little baby bag of medicine because I had planned everything perfectly, and I saw, we had baby Advil and baby butt paste, but the only thing that we did not have was baby nose spray. And so I had my baby in one arm and went to the bedroom where my husband Michael was sleeping quite dramatically, like this, sort of saying, "Do not wake me up." So I took it as an invitation to wake him up. I said, "Honey, Jacob is coughing and sneezing and he's congested and we do not have the nose drops. Could you please run to the store and get it?" Not moving from his position, he says, "Use the contact lens solution. It's the same thing." I kid you not. And that is when I said, "Dear, if we break the first baby, they will not let us bring the second baby home. Get up and get the nose drops." Because sometimes you need perfect, right? Sometimes you need perfect. Sometimes good enough is not good enough. Fast forward 2 years ago, I am reading a popular parenting magazine that has a column called "In a Pinch." Now, of course, I thought it would be good enough that just I know. But I wanted to be better than that. He's not forgiven me yet. So sometimes things do need to be perfect, but sometimes good enough is what we need to get going. So as you know, I'm a professional coach. We have a room full of talented professional coaches and consultants and all those kinds of things in the room. But I think, as any good coach or consultant would tell you, our job is to ultimately put ourselves out of business with every client, right? We do not want a client that is, clinging to us for dear life and we are their sole source of oxygen. My job with every client is to ultimately put myself out of business with them and move on to something else. So I like to fast track it and become as critically unnecessary as humanly possible. And today I'm going to show you the tool that I use so that nobody actually needs me or any kind of coach. Of course, we need our coaches. Forgive me. We definitely need our coaches, but I want to show you a tool to get you moving and to get you on a path towards accountability right away. So many coaches and speakers and trainers and all sorts of people have lots of different tools they use. I used to, as part of my workshops, give out pens, and pens are really good at writing, but I wanted more than that. I wanted a pen that did my work if I was not available. So I invented a self-coaching pen that has a series of 8 questions that will help get you from wherever you are to wherever you want to go, and everybody in this room is going to get one. And then, of course, because I am not intuitive, and the only thing fast about me is my talking, it's been about 3 years of people calling me after workshops and saying, can I order 120 pens, that I realized, maybe there's a business there? I don't know. Honey, do you think I could run a pen business? So I'm going to ask you, even though I haven't given you a pen yet, I'm going to ask you to write this down. I want you to write down, it just clicked at elevatedtraining.com. It just clicked at elevatedtraining.com, so that if you decide for your business, whatever your key questions are or the key things you want your clients to remember are, you could have it at their fingertips. Really inexpensive. I think it's the opposite direction of people who are now like giving out iPads to their clients. I can't afford that yet. What? Training. You're going to get it. So it just clicked, and my company name is right on here. But I want to show you how this works, and then you all are going to do it with the person sitting next to you so that you can pull together. Well, I know that a pen works like this, yes. But I want to show you how the questions work. Thank you. She's like, she's really not giving us credit for the intellect in the room if she has to teach us how a pen works. Thank you for calling me on my BS. Okay. So I'm going to take somebody, and we are going to go through the questions on the pen. And the way that it works really is you stick to the questions on the pen, you go in order, and the answers on the part of the other person need to be limited to 1 sentence. That's it. The goal is to get this done quickly. So I'm going to do one, and then everybody's going to get a pen, and then I'm going to give away a book, and then there's going to be chocolate. So I'm really the only barrier in the room between you and booze and chocolate. So I am going to randomly select someone. Oh, Ronit, you're right there. Why don't you come on up? Okay. So this is my friend and colleague, Ronit. Ronit, have I asked you any of the questions on the pen? Have I asked you any of the questions on the pen? No. Okay, but I do know Ronit, but she doesn't know the questions. Okay, so Ronit, just very quickly tell everyone what you do, and then I'm going to coach you, even though I'm a professional coach and I know more than 8 questions, because I was trained to, I'm only going to use the questions on the pen. What do you do, Ronit?
I work with women who head up their households with the finances of their households to really make sure that they're good today and in the future. Okay,
so women who are in charge of the money in their house, you help them figure out what are we going to do? Okay, excellent. So I am going to start, and I'm just going to use the questions on the pen, and all your answers are going to be 1 sentence. So, Ronit, what do you want?
I want to help more women.
Why is that important to you?
Because I think women in this particular field are very much underserved.
What's working?
When I do start working with women, they are very receptive to gaining the information the way that I deliver it.
What isn't working?
I'm not speaking to enough women.
If only there were more women somewhere. What's possible?
I guess anything's possible. Doing more is possible.
Okay. What do you need to move forward?
Good kick, stiff kick in the pants.
So what will you do next?
One of the things that I really have been procrastinating about or not realizing is I do want to put together an article that will address these women and how they can better manage their household finance. And I need to get out there and start to interview these women.
By when?
I would like to...
By when?
By the end of May, I will have at least 10 interviews.
By May 31st, 30 days, September, April, June, November. By May 31st, you will have completed 10 interviews.
Correct.
Thank you, Ronit. Okay, so how much advice did I give her? 0 advice, right? Did she come to some place? Did she move forward? Does she have an action plan? Is she holding herself accountable? I'm out of a job, once again. Once again, I have done it. I have put myself out of a job. But I possibly sold some pens. So here's what I'm going to do. You have two options. I'm going to pass around some pens, and what I'd really like you to do is to take a pen and put your business card in the bag so that I can raffle off a couple of copies of my book, Oy Vey Isn't a Strategy. If you don't want to give me your business card because you've heard just enough from me, that is absolutely fine. You can still have a pen. So just if you'll hand the bags out. Yep. Okay? And please take one pen. Okay? Okay, here you go. And then, take a pen, and then what I'd like you to do, ladies, I know I've opened up a can of whoop-ass here. What I'd like you to do is, after you take a pen, turn to one person at your table and coach them using just the questions from the pen. Keep your answers to one sentence so that we finish on time. Okay? Nope, I got it. Thank you. You just relax and hold the doors. Okay, ladies. I would normally have you have more time, but I was just told that we are about to get kicked out into chocolate and wine so I could think of worse problems. So what I want to do is remind you, first of all, do I have everybody's bag? If there's a bag on your table, just make sure it gets up here so that you can be a part of the raffle. Okay, so did anybody get to someplace? Did anybody actually use the pen and come up with an action plan? Yeah, good, excellent. So I want to just tell you, these pens are good for anyone at any time with any kind of challenge. When my kids are homesick, if they're not really sick, I make them come work for my business at below minimum wage, and I'm sure Ms. Kaufman Esquire would have something to say about the legal ramifications of that. But one day I'd gotten a shipment of pens and I was having my son Jacob bag them up, and about a half hour later I come back and no pens are in a bag. And I said, "What happened?" He said, "I had a problem. I was coaching myself." So it worked for a then 8-year-old boy. So I'm glad you got somewhere. Take the pens. They can be filled with any kind of question or issue or challenge so that you can give those out to your clients. And 2 copies of the book. So we have our raffle winner. So 1 copy of Oy Vey Isn't a Strategy goes to Christy Dean. Christy, all right. If you'll pass that back to her, great. And a copy of the other book is Devin Clement. All right. Oy Vey Isn't a Strategy. There you go. Don't wait for the perfect. The present is perfect enough. Thank you so much for your time. And Patty, I'm handing it back to you.